The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of Kensington Palace, casting golden rays across the polished marble floors. Kate Middleton sat quietly in her private study, her fingers wrapped around a cup of Earl Grey tea that had long gone cold. The weight of the conversation she had shared with William the night before pressed heavily on her chest, making each breath feel deliberate and measured. William had been different lately. The man who once filled rooms with his easy laughter and warm presence had become distant, lost in thoughts he couldn't quite share with her. She noticed it first during their last public engagement together, a charity event for children's mental health. While cameras captured their usual smiles and coordinated waves, Kate felt the invisible wall that had grown between them. Their love story had begun like a fairy tale at St. Andrews University. Kate remembered the moment she first saw William across the crowded lecture hall, his sandy hair catching the afternoon light as he scribbled notes with focused concentration. She had been studying art history, he was pursuing geography, but fate seemed determined to weave their paths together. What started as casual conversations over coffee in the university cafe slowly blossomed into something deeper, more meaningful than either of them had expected. Those university days felt like a lifetime ago now. Back then, William was just another student trying to find his place in the world, and Kate was the girl from Berkshire who had worked hard to earn her spot at one of Scotland's most prestigious universities. They would walk along the cobblestone streets of St. Andrews, sharing dreams and fears, completely unaware that their relationship would one day be scrutinized by millions around the world. The transition from university sweethearts to public figures had been gradual but overwhelming. Kate remembered the first time photographers followed her to work, the first tabloid headline that featured her photograph, the first time she realized that privacy was now a luxury she could no longer afford. William had tried to protect her, but the weight of his royal destiny grew heavier with each passing year. Their wedding day in April 2011 had been magical, watched by 2 billion people worldwide. Kate recalled walking down the aisle of Westminster Abbey, her silk dress trailing behind her, her eyes fixed on William's face. In that moment, surrounded by centuries of history and tradition, she believed they could overcome any challenge together. The cheers from the crowds outside, the magnificent ceremony, the carriage ride through London, it all felt like a beautiful dream. The early years of their marriage were filled with joy and purpose. They traveled the world together, representing the crown with dignity and grace. Kate threw herself into charitable work, focusing on causes close to her heart: early childhood development, mental health awareness, and supporting military families. William admired her dedication and natural ability to connect with people from all walks of life. When their children arrived, Kate felt her world complete in ways she had never imagined. Prince George's first cry, in the private wing of St. Mary's Hospital, brought tears to her eyes, not just from the overwhelming love she felt, but from the realization that her child would grow up in the same fishbowl existence that had slowly been suffocating her marriage. Princess Charlotte's birth 2 years later brought different challenges. Kate struggled with severe morning sickness during both pregnancies, but the media scrutiny during her second pregnancy felt more intense, more invasive. Every public appearance was analyzed, every outfit choice was dissected, every expression was interpreted as a sign of her state of mind. Prince Louis completed their family, but by then, the cracks in their relationship had become harder to hide. William's duties were expanding rapidly as his grandfather aged and his father prepared for his future role. The demands on his time became relentless, leaving little room for the quiet moments that had once sustained their connection. Kate found herself handling more and more responsibilities alone: school pickups, bedtime stories, homework help, weekend activities. She managed it all with grace, but the loneliness was becoming unbearable. She understood the importance of William's work, the weight of duty that had been placed on his shoulders since birth, but understanding didn't make the reality any easier to bear. The media began to notice the changes too. Royal watchers started commenting on their body language during public appearances, noting how they stood slightly further apart, how their usual casual touches had become more formal. Kate read every article, each speculation feeling like a knife to her heart. Not because they were wrong, but because they were becoming increasingly accurate. Last night's conversation had been the culmination of months of growing apart. William had finally voiced what they both knew but had been too afraid to acknowledge. Their love remained strong, but the life they were living was slowly destroying the intimacy and partnership that had once made them unbreakable. As Kate sat in her study that morning, watching the city wake up beyond her window, she knew that the most difficult chapter of her life was about to begin. William stood in his father's study at Clarence House, the afternoon light casting long shadows across the antique desk where King Charles reviewed state papers. The conversation he was about to have would change everything, not just for him and Kate, but for the monarchy itself. His hands trembled slightly as he straightened his tie, a nervous habit he'd carried since childhood. King Charles looked up from his documents, immediately sensing the gravity in his son's demeanor. The relationship between father and son had evolved significantly since Charles had assumed the throne. What had once been formal and distant had grown into something approaching genuine understanding, forged through shared experience of the impossible weight of royal duty. William began slowly, his voice steady but strained. He spoke of love that hadn't died, but had been stretched beyond recognition. He explained how the demands of their roles had created a chasm between him and Kate that neither of them knew how to bridge. The king listened without interruption, his weathered face showing the wisdom of someone who had navigated his own marital struggles under the relentless glare of public scrutiny. The irony wasn't lost on either of them. Charles's first marriage had crumbled under similar pressures, though different circumstances. The parallels were uncomfortable but undeniable. William had always sworn he would do better, be different, protect his family in ways his father hadn't been able to protect his mother. Yet here he was, facing the same impossible choice between duty and personal happiness. Meanwhile, Kate was having her own difficult conversation with her parents at their home in Berkshire. Michael and Carol Middleton had watched their daughter transform from a carefree university student into one of the most photographed women in the world. They had seen her strength during the challenging times, her grace under pressure, her unwavering dedication to her children, and her role. Carol held her daughter's hand as Kate explained the decision they had reached. The older woman's eyes filled with tears, not just for her daughter's pain, but for the grandchildren who would now grow up in a broken home. Despite their parents' best efforts to minimize the damage, Michael sat quietly, his businessman's mind already working through the practical implications of what Kate was telling them. The children remained blissfully unaware of the storm gathering around them. George was at school, diligently working through his mathematics problems, the same serious expression on his face that his father had worn at that age. Charlotte was in her dance class, her natural confidence shining through as she moved to the music, completely absorbed in the joy of the moment. Louis was at home with his nanny, building elaborate castles with his wooden blocks, each creation more ambitious than the last. Kate had insisted that the children's routines remain unchanged for as long as possible. She understood that their world was about to shift dramatically, but she was determined to preserve their sense of security for every moment she could. The conversations about Mommy and Daddy living in different houses would come soon enough. The palace staff began to sense the change before any official announcement was made. The household that had run like clockwork for years suddenly felt different. Schedules were being adjusted quietly, meetings were being rearranged, and there was an undercurrent of tension that even the most discreet staff members couldn't ignore. Private Secretary Simon Case found himself managing an unprecedented situation. Royal separations had happened before, but never with such young children involved, never with heirs so close to the throne. The logistics were staggering. Living arrangements, custody schedules, public appearances, media management. Every detail had to be planned with military precision to protect both the family and the institution. William threw himself into his work with renewed intensity, as if staying busy could somehow ease the ache in his chest. He visited veterans' charities, spoke at environmental conferences, and attended state functions with the same dedication he had always shown. But those close to him noticed the change. The quick smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. The way he checked his phone constantly for messages from Kate about the children. Kate maintained her own schedule with characteristic determination. She continued her patronages, attended ribbon cuttings and galas, met with charity leaders and community groups. Her smile remained warm and genuine when she interacted with the public, but in quiet moments between engagements, Her aide noticed her staring out car windows with an expression of profound sadness. The couple met regularly to discuss the children and coordinate their schedules. These conversations were conducted with the same careful politeness they might use with any co-parent. But underneath the civilized exterior, the love and loss were palpable. They both struggled with the knowledge that they were good people who had simply been defeated by circumstances beyond their control. Royal biographers and media experts began speculating about the future. Would William remarry? How would this affect his eventual succession to the throne? What precedent was being set for future generations of royals? The questions swirled constantly in royal circles, but William and Kate remained focused on more immediate concerns, helping their children adjust and maintaining some semblance of family unity despite living apart. The Queen consort, Camilla, offered quiet support to Kate during this transition. Having navigated her own complex path into the royal family, she understood the unique pressures that came with the role. Her advice was practical and kind, focused on preserving dignity while protecting the children from unnecessary pain. As autumn approached, the reality of their new situation began to settle in. The fairy tale that had captivated the world was ending. Not with dramatic confrontations or scandalous revelations, but with the quiet acknowledgement that sometimes love isn't enough to overcome the weight of duty and expectation. The formal announcement came on a crisp October morning, released simultaneously by Kensington Palace and picked up by news outlets around the world within minutes. The statement was brief, dignified, and heartbreaking in its simplicity. The Prince and Princess of Wales had made the difficult decision to live separately while continuing to co-parent their 3 children and fulfill their royal duties. Kate read the news coverage from her new residence, a beautiful Georgian townhouse in Chelsea that would serve as her London base. The property had been chosen for its privacy and proximity to the children's schools. As she scrolled through the headlines on her tablet, she felt a strange sense of relief mixed with profound sadness. The secret that had been weighing on them for months was finally public. The public reaction was immediate and intense. Social media exploded with commentary, ranging from heartbreak and sympathy to anger and blame. Many people felt personally invested in William and Kate's relationship, having watched their love story unfold over 2 decades. The idea that their marriage was ending felt like the loss of something sacred to many observers. Support poured in from unexpected places. Mental health advocates praised their decision to prioritize their emotional well-being and that of their children. Divorce lawyers noted the mature way they were handling the separation, putting the children's needs first. Royal historians acknowledged that this was perhaps the most gracefully managed royal separation in modern history. William found himself fielding questions during a visit to a homeless shelter in Manchester. His response was brief but heartfelt, thanking people for their understanding and asking for privacy for his family during this transition. The staff at the shelter were struck by his genuine emotion when he spoke about the importance of stable homes for children, knowing that his own children's sense of home had just been fundamentally altered. The logistics of their new arrangement slowly took shape. The children would spend weekdays with Kate at the Chelsea house and weekends at Anmer Hall with William. School holidays would be divided equally, with special occasions like birthdays and Christmas requiring careful coordination. Both parents were committed to maintaining as much normalcy as possible in their children's lives. George, now 10 years old, was the first to truly understand what was happening. Kate found him crying quietly in his room one evening, clutching a framed photo from their last family vacation to the Caribbean. She held him close as he asked if it was his fault, if there was something he could have done differently. Her heart broke as she assured him that sometimes adults make difficult decisions that have nothing to do with their children. Charlotte, 8 and perceptive beyond her years, surprised everyone with her resilience. She matter-of-factly explained to her friends at school that her parents lived in different houses now, but they were still a family. Her teacher was amazed at the little girl's ability to articulate something so complex with such clarity and confidence. Louis, at 5, struggled the most with the changes. He couldn't understand why Daddy wasn't there for breakfast anymore, why Mommy seemed sad even when she was smiling. Kate and William worked together to create special traditions that would help him feel secure. Bedtime calls with whichever parent he wasn't staying with, a photo album he could carry between houses, special stuffed animals that would travel with him. The couple's first public appearance together after the separation was at Charlotte's school Christmas concert. They sat side by side, applauding their daughter's solo performance, presenting a united front for their child's sake. Photographers captured their careful politeness. The way they communicated through glances and subtle gestures developed over years of marriage. Kate threw herself into her charitable work with renewed passion. She launched a new initiative focused on supporting children of divorced parents, drawing from her own experience to help other families navigate similar challenges. Her authenticity and vulnerability in discussing the difficulties made her more relatable than she had ever been as a royal. William found solace in environmental work, spending long hours with conservation groups and climate scientists. The work gave him purpose beyond his royal duties and provided an outlet for the energy he had once devoted to his marriage. His colleagues noticed his increased focus and dedication, though they also saw the loneliness in his eyes during quiet moments. The extended royal family rallied around both of them in different ways. King Charles made sure both William and Kate felt supported and valued within the institution. He had learned from his own experiences and was determined to ensure that his son and daughter-in-law received the backing they needed during this difficult time. Princess Anne, known for her no-nonsense approach, provided practical support by taking on additional engagements to ease the burden on both William and Kate. Her straightforward manner and lack of judgment made her a trusted confidant for both of them during the darkest moments of the separation. As winter settled over London, Kate found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought her to this point. She didn't regret falling in love with William or the years they had shared as a family. The pain of their separation was balanced by gratitude for the time they had been truly happy together and the 3 beautiful children they had created. The future remained uncertain, but Kate was beginning to find her footing as a single parent and independent woman. She was discovering parts of herself that had been subsumed by royal duty and wifehood. The process was painful, but also liberating in ways she hadn't expected. Their love story would indeed echo through time. Not as the fairy tale the world had wanted it to be, but as a testament to the complexity of love, duty, and human nature. Sometimes the most elegant thing 2 people can do is acknowledge when their paths must diverge, even when their hearts remain forever connected by the family they created together and the love they once shared so completely.